Yeah, well, CTV has been an exciting space for some time now, but I think the biggest area of focus for marketers, we represent the buy side, so I think their biggest focus is how do we measure what's going on in connected television? And one of the unique aspects of CTV is that the ad gets exposed on the TV, but I pull out my smartphone to take an action, 60% of the time. And so bridging that gap of solving the measurement problem for the buy side, I think is the biggest topic of today.
So there are obviously different philosophies about how we go about measuring CTV. Mm-hmm. There are people measuring the streams, there are people measuring on the glass. Do these different philosophies fit together?
I think they can. You're talking ACR data in terms of measuring from the glass. I think that's important to measure linear TV. But when it comes to connected television, it's a unique space. There's no cookie, there's no website, people surfing automotive websites or travel websites that give you that behavioral targeting data. That's now gone. And so you have to take a completely different approach in connected TV, which is where we focused, is around people-based data. Matching a hashed email from a supplier of CTV to a data company and being able to unlock in-market auto for an auto marketer to buy across CTV. But more importantly, you've got to be able to measure the responses. And I think what we invented is something called the household ID, which incorporates all the smartphones, laptops in the household, as well as the CTV. And so if an ad exposure happens on Hulu, but the person pulls out their smartphone to buy the plane ticket, we can correctly attribute it to Hulu. And that's been a big area of focus for Viant for many years, what we call our household ID. And I do believe it is the way forward, is putting all the devices together in one home.
So I hear very different perspectives on the current state of measurement in the CTV environment.
Yep.
Some people say measurement is completely broken. Others are very positive about how it's developing. Where are you?
I think measurement, the ability is certainly there today across our platform. I think every company is at a different stage, though, of maturation. So I do think the problem has been solved for targeting audiences, measuring those audiences. I think we do a great job of that, which is why we've been a leader in CTV, and it's propelled our growth, this basic fundamental concept. But as a consumer, I do have to say, there are many times where I see the same ad over and over and over again, and that's because the lack of an ID in the bid stream, and cookie-based DSPs just have an inability to recognize that. So the consumer experience is still broken due to overfrequency. Marketers are wasting a lot of money on overfrequency, but the technology is there. It's just about having those marketers find it and adopt it to be able to implement it.
So I talk to agencies who argue that without more collaboration than we're currently seeing, that over-frequency problem is never going to be solved. Do you agree?
I think there's ways to solve it, and I think what people are referring to is something called the Video Privacy Act, where you can't send the video that someone's actually watching. But there are new partnerships, like one we just executed with Iris TV, which passes a category and a subcategory on what that content is about. So it's an animated comedy or whatever it is. And I think advertisers are going to be able to use these as bridging the gap. You don't need to know the exact video, but you do need to know genre, subgenre, to be able to target and find audiences that are similar and then measure against that genre. And so I think more partnerships like Iris TV. Another big important one is a partnership we did with Adelaide, which measures attention inside of connected television. How long are consumers watching for, and does attention actually correlate to sales activity or site visitation or whatever the metric is? And that's another big one that most marketers are very excited about, measuring attention in this space and seeing what the correlation is to outcomes.
So the growth of CTV has really supported the growth of a programmatic ecosystem for TV-like inventory. And that's obviously facilitated the growth of DSPs and SSPs and others in the video space.
Yep.
How has that landscape developed in recent years? What kind of trends are you seeing in the DSP space?
Well, you got to start with the supply side. I mean, Netflix's announcement that they're going to get into the ad-supported game, Disney's announcement that they're doing the same, and I think that's music to everyone's ears. It doesn't matter if you're a DSP or SSP, if you're in programmatic advertising, what great news. And I think the truth is consumers need ad-supported content as well as subscriptions, and I think the content companies are there. So as more supply comes online, it's our job as the DSP to make sure that we have a direct connection to that inventory and then continue to do the same things that we do, which is how do we target ads effectively and how do we measure response so we know what we're getting for our money. And I think as this rolls out, that is going to be an even bigger boost as Netflix comes online and Disney unlocks more inventory. But I think over the long term, we're going to see new ad formats get created. If you think of Netflix, they didn't have ad breaks in mind when they created the content. So I do think you're going to see new ad formats of ads being injected into the videos in the background on a billboard as they walk down the street. That's the best part of connected TV, interactivity, is that's what the internet brings and why it's different than linear TV.
So final question, you founded a very successful streaming service, had a great exit. How mature is that space? Do you think there's a prospect of seeing other large-scale streaming services launching, services that haven't yet launched? Or actually has the market matured? There are pretty high barriers to entry now for new streaming services looking to scale up.
Yeah. There is an enormous market for more streaming services. I think you're referring to Xumo, the company that we started and sold to Comcast. And what a great learning experience being on the other side of the coin. Consumers want great content, and they are thirsty for it, and they're accessing it left and right. And so if you can make it free and ad supported, it's the cheapest way to get someone to tune in. And that's why I was so excited about the Netflix announcement. But more and more, I think over the long term, if we go back and look at broadcast television, you had 4 or 5 major broadcasters, then comes cable, now you have 100 channels. I think when it gets into these new digital networks that are created, streaming only, I think it'll probably average out around 2,000 to 3,000 that are really high quality with some certain niche or interest that's actually there. But if you think of it, historically, surfing wouldn't work on linear TV. It's not a broad enough audience. But surfing can work in a streaming TV app. And so I think you get niche interests that have smaller, more excited user base, and you're going to see all of these apps explode.